Watch. I am Tim Thompson. We are here today with somebody from Reopen California Schools. Jonathan Zachreson is with us. Jonathan, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, we've got a lot going on in the state, as you know. Talk to us about Reopen California.
Yeah, so Reopen California Schools was a group that I started in June of 2020, really focused on getting schools to reopen in our state. As we know, it took a very long time for our schools to open, which just led, that movement of reopening schools grew and grew and grew until we were dealing with not just school reopening issues, but just getting our kids back to normal. And so from that process, I have seen, as many of your viewers have probably seen, a lot of the institutional issues with just the school structure and the power structure there, where parents really didn't have a seat at the table or a strong voice, right? It was special interests driving policy in California.
Right.
And so what we're trying to do now is expand that through an organization called Students First California, which is now, it's a nonprofit, a C4, with a connected political action committee. So it allows the political action committee to be political while our nonprofit stays focused on the nonprofit and can endorse candidates.
Got it. So you're running yourself. You're a candidate. You're running for school board in your hometown. How's that going?
Yes, I am running. I was been asked by quite a few people to run for the elementary school district. There is one particular member that they wanted to see get off that board. She was not in favor of reopening schools. She was not in favor of unmasking kids. And so she hasn't really been a voice there. Thankfully, she's actually not running, so there's that vacancy. But we do have a total of 5 people running for 3 open seats. I've received a lot of great feedback from the community. I've received endorsements from the entire high school board, the Roseville Joint Union High School. I've also received endorsements from Kevin Kiley, Joe Patterson, the American Council, Moms for Liberty, Placer County Republican Party. I really appreciate all of those endorsements and all the support that I'm getting from the community. And I'm really excited what it looks like coming November. But, can't give up. Like I said, there's 5 people there. And so as much support as I can get, volunteers, donations, what have you, just like any other candidate,
right,
needs to be successful in a race.
Right. Yeah, I'm glad to hear you have Kevin Kiley's endorsement. That's a great endorsement. What are you're looking at the schools, reopening the schools. That can't be the only topic that matters to you, though, right? So what are some of the driving forces for you? What's really inspiring you to get on that school board and change?
Yeah, I think the number one issue is just kind of the structural issue that we see that led to the problems in the pandemic. We are now, like I said, we are open. Placer County is pretty open. I'm not too concerned with any of the mandates where we are. But that's not the only issue. There's the entire structure when it comes to curriculum, when it comes to any other state mandates. There are still some stuff trying to happen from the COVID perspective from the state level that we're going to have to deal with. So that is on the table. But really, it's that structure that's really not allowing parents to have voices to be heard and these special interests. And I'll give you an example. And this was pre-COVID. I'm not going to mention the school district or the individual. But there was, as you know, in 2000, I think it was 2019, there was this new sex ed curriculum that's coming down from the state. And so there was a committee formed on the school district to basically to try to get parents to approve this. But they didn't, when they showed this committee to approve the curriculum, all they showed was like 2 slides on bullying, which, right, we don't want any bullying, but it didn't really relate to the curriculum. And then they asked the committee to approve the curriculum. Well, some parents objected, right? They ended up having like the lawyers come in from the district. They had the superintendent come in from the district and just saying, hey, you guys need to pass this new curriculum. But they were not sharing it with the parents. They had 3 meetings without sharing the curriculum, asking them to adopt this new curriculum. And it just was not, it was apparent that the parents' voices really weren't being heard. And they were trying to push forward whatever the state and these special interests were pushing. And so really that is the goal, is how do we get parents back into the equation? How do we make sure that their voices are heard on some of these key committees and key decisions?
Yeah, I think it's an important effort that you're going towards there. For the audience listening in right now that isn't aware of that, it's AB 329 that was passed several years before COVID. I think 2015 it was passed, and then it started to be implemented. Definitely many of the curriculum writers started to work on that, and then 2 to 3 years leading into COVID, the school district started to adopt the various curriculums that were created. I think up to 6 curriculums were created in response to AB 329, and that bill was called the California Healthy Youth Act. Shirley Weber's the one who authored that. Of course, we know what she's been doing in our state. She's been doing a lot of things to tear these families apart, and that law, AB 329, was written, it was passed, the curriculums came out, and really it does separate the parent from the child. In fact, many of the curriculums discuss parents, and when it discusses the parent, it doesn't even say parent, it says barrier. So they're referring to the parent as the barrier, and barriers have to be removed according to them. So that being the law, I'll tell you my experience, and I want to get your take on this. My experience, because I've been pushing back ever since this law was passed, I go to the school board and I complain to them about what's going on. The school board then tells me, well, our hands are tied, California Board of Education, you got to go up to Sacramento, talk to them, talk to the state Senate, talk to the legislature. They're the ones that pass this stuff. So then I fly up there to Sacramento, talk to them, tell them our struggles with this. And what they tell us is, well, you have such thing as local control. Go back to your school board and tell them, that they're the ones that can control this. So I go back and they said, oh, no, our hands are tied. And it's like I'm like a ping pong ball going back and forth, back and forth. So you see the problem. You see what's going on. You're trying to get elected to get in there to change things. How do you see your school board? Let's say you get elected, and I hope you do. What can your school board do to fight against this, knowing that the state's going to say, well, this is the law and you have to do it?
No, good question. And I saw that exact same pattern throughout reopening schools, right? You would have the local school board says, we can't do it. The state's telling us, the state says, well, you got local control. And really it's the state driving a lot of this policy.
Right.
So I think a couple ways I think we can improve that. One is interacting with other local school boards and other governmental agencies that agree with you on these issues. There are strength in numbers. And so whatever you're doing locally, you can try to get ideas off of those other school boards and leaders in those school districts, and work together on a solution for your local community. That was useful when we saw masks come off here in Placer County. Quick background on that: about a month before Newsom lifted the statewide mask mandate, our high school district passed a resolution that says we are done. This is not appropriate. We shouldn't be enforcing this. We're going to give choice to our students. Well, that led to dozens of other school districts around the state, a lot in Placer County and a lot in nearby counties that decided to do the same thing.
Right.
And what we realized is these boards have a lot more control than what they thought they had.
Right.
And part of that is you have everybody working against them. You have sometimes the superintendent working against them. You have their legal counsel working against them. You have, the state coming down. And so really it's forming this group, connecting these groups. And that's part of what I hope Students First California will be about. I want them to be able to connect like-minded school board members so that they can support each other, provide resources when it comes to adopting policies. If you need to lobby the state when appropriate, do so. And in the end, as you probably recognize with the laws, sometimes they're ambiguous, and they're doing that for a reason because they want to get passed, right? Knowing that maybe the Department of Education or maybe these external forces are going to write something more radical in the curriculum. What you can do as a school board is not adopt some of these things that are just pushed on your plate. You can work together with your parents, work together with other districts to come up with a better solution that maybe meets the letter of the law, but does not go down some of those radical avenues that some of these other school districts have done.
Yeah, exactly. And writing curriculum, stuff like that, working with these various groups to come up with, as you said, a curriculum that meets the letter of the law. Writing curriculum can be expensive, but if multiple districts will get together and say, okay, let's all work on this simultaneously, share costs, stuff like that, you can end up having an entirely new curriculum. Like I said, 6 different curriculums that meet the AB 329 standards in California, and there's only a couple different companies that produce these things. So it's a racket for sure. And one of the things that we found is that idea of representation. And this is one of the things that we've been trying to tell school board, the entire school boards, is stop representing the state to us. Your job as an elected official is to represent us to the state. And they're consistently representing the state to us. And we got to get back to what a constitutional republic is all about. And that is where we have representation. So we're supposed to be able to voice our opinion. The people that we've elected and put into office are supposed to represent us up, and not the other way around. So how do you see that? Your role as a elected official, you get elected this November and you get placed into office. What are you going to do to show your community that they have somebody in you that is going to be representing them to the state?
No, that's a great question. And I think that is the new level of leadership, the standard that we need for school board members or city council members or county supervisors. Right. There are situations where your hands truly are tied. Not a lot, but there are situations that are like that. And in those cases, you need to work for your constituents and advocate for better state policies. We've seen several school districts write the resolutions, pass resolutions, some not as strong as others, but nonetheless, they pass them. And those letters and resolutions get sent to their state representatives, including the governor, CDPH, or in the California Department of Education, what have you. And so that was successful, I believe, too, in some of undoing the harmful COVID policies that we saw going on in schools. And so if your school district isn't willing to do that, your school board isn't willing to do that, even if they maybe agree with you on policy, they're not necessarily working for you. So I would plan to continue some of that, being involved with what's happening at the state. Even right now, I'm heavily involved with Reopen California Schools and with Students First California, watching the legislature on some of these bad bills that we're trying to fight, AB 866, SP 1479. There's plenty of others that have a related issue to education and youth. Yours as a school board member, and I would hope that all other school board members would be willing to pay attention to those and help lobby for or against certain bills at the state level on behalf of their constituents.
Yes, outstanding. So, hey, we only have about a minute left. How can people connect with you, connect with Reopen California, Students First, and then also how can they support your campaign?
Yeah, so Reopen California Schools, we have a large social media presence. So it's you can go to our website at reopencaliforniaschools.com. It's at Reopen CA Schools on Twitter and on Facebook. Students First California, there'll be more launched about that later. If you want to look at the sign-up form and the Political Action Committee link, you can go to Facebook and Twitter as well. It's at Students First CA. And for my campaign, you can go to Zachreson.com. That's ZACHRESON.com to learn about me and my campaign for school board.
All right. Well, Jonathan Zachreson, thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you get elected in November, and we'll see what you are able to do once you're on that school board. We look forward to great things. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, and everybody that's tuned in online, thank you so much for being here with us today. We'll see you next time right here on Our Watch with Tim Thompson.